In a week from now, India will mark 1 year since the Air India 171 flight crash in Ahmedabad. It was a Boeing 787 Dreamliner, one of the world's most advanced passenger aircrafts. In 1 year, we've had one inconclusive preliminary report from the AAIB. The report confirmed that both fuel control switches transitioned from run to cutoff shortly after takeoff, leading to a loss of thrust in both engines. It also indicated that the cockpit voice recorder captured confusion between the pilots, with one asking why the fuel had been cut off and the other denying responsibility. The third finding in this report was that the investigators found no immediate evidence requiring emergency action against Boeing 787 fleet or the GE engines powering the aircraft. This report from the AIB was twisted and turned by global media. The Washington Post reported that the preliminary findings pointed towards inadvertent activation of the fuel cutoff switches and highlighted expert opinion, suggesting human action as one possible explanation. The newspaper noted that the switches are designed to prevent accidental movement and that both engines stopped receiving fuel after the switches moved to the cutoff position. The AAIB preliminary report had caused the family of pilot Captain Sabharwal so much damage to the family that the father of Sumit Sabharwal moved the Supreme Court. The plea alleged that the preliminary report prepared by the AAIB is biased and incomplete, as it attributed the cause of the accident to pilot error while disregarding critical technical and systemic factors. Now, a story done by Caravan explains how the cause of this crash was the plane's computer FADEC commanding a fuel cutoff. It all started with a stabilizer fault. The stabilizer is part of the aircraft's tail. Its job is simple: keep the plane balanced and stable in the air. According to this report, all three flight control modules, or FCMS, detected the fault. Think of FCMS as the aircraft's flight computers. They constantly process data and help the plane make critical decisions. But there was a problem. All three computers began disagreeing with each other. In aviation, this is called a triplex disagreement. Essentially, the aircraft stopped trusting its own data and entered what is known as a degraded mode, a condition where some automated systems continue functioning but with reduced confidence and capability. And then things got worse. Just 15 minutes before takeoff, the very computers that detected the fault began faulting themselves. Power systems started faulting, flight control logic started faulting, hydraulic systems started faulting, even fault monitoring systems started faulting. In simple terms, the aircraft's warning systems were themselves beginning to fail. What investigators describe as isolated faults, this report describes as the beginning of a cascading failure, one problem triggering another, then another, like falling dominoes. At the center of this report is something called the Common Data Network, essentially the aircraft's digital nervous system, connecting computers and systems across the Boeing 787. Yet the aircraft took off normally. Then came a routine command given on every flight: gear up. The landing gear was retracted, but according to this report, that command pushed a high voltage electrical inverter beyond its limits. An inverter is a device that distributes electrical power across the aircraft. The result: a catastrophic electrical failure. The loud boom, later described by survivor Vishwas Kumar Ramesh. The electrical event damaged the aircraft's auxiliary power unit, emergency locator systems, lighting systems, and most importantly, the flight control modules themselves. And when those computers rebooted in mid-air, they are believed to have reverted to what's called ground mode, a configuration intended for an aircraft sitting on the runway, not flying at 630 feet. That is where the report takes its most dramatic turn. Once the computers entered ground mode, a protection logic called thrust control malfunction accommodation, or TCMA, allegedly activated. That protection logic triggered the aircraft's FADEC system. FADEC stands for Full Authority Digital Engine Control. It is the computer that controls fuel flow to the engines. The claim is that FADEC interpreted the situation as a malfunction and automatically commanded fuel cutoff to both engines. In other words, the engines did not stop because the pilots cut fuel. The engines stopped because the aircraft's own computers believed they needed to. Within seconds, Air India 171 was facing a dual-engine failure just after takeoff. What followed was a desperate fight for survival. Captain Sumit Sabharwal took control. First Officer Clive Kunder attempted the emergency restart procedure by moving the fuel switches back to run. But according to this report, automation struck twice. First by cutting fuel, then by refusing a successful relight, because the computer-determined conditions were outside the certified envelope for a restart. The pilots kept fighting. They followed procedure. They attempted recovery, but with both engines lost at just 630 feet, time had already run out. With this report now out, question is, how will Boeing deny it? Joining us now live, Group Captain UK Devnath, aviation expert, is live with us. Group Captain Devnath, what do you make of this new report and its findings?
Definitely, a new report is always a welcome report because it takes us closer to what happened, how it happened, what should not have happened. were any technical design or operative mistakes were made, and what is the future course of correction? Uday, definitely aviation industry is nascently, inherently very safe. Aircraft systems are designed not to fail, but systems do fail. And in these fail-safe mechanism systems, even if they fail, rate of failure should be almost tending towards a zero. A failure of an aircraft system once in say about 1 lakh hour of operation is considered acceptable. Viewers should not get alarmed uh, because every system in an aircraft, especially passenger aircraft, has a secondary or tertiary backup. So even if a system fails once in 1 lakh operations, because it has got standby backup, standby to standby backup, the chances of the process failing is almost impossible. Having said that, now the theory that uh, FADC failure led to fuel shutoff is a probability. But Uday, I must own up that when an aircraft crash takes place, all the possible reasons are charted and put through a computer analysis. All the possible reason for a crash are listed and are simulated manually as well as on a computer. Not dozens of time, but hundreds of time. Under DGCA supervision, we have, say, aircraft accident investigating board. They are highly qualified pilots, highly qualified engineers. If it was a Boeing 787, then most of these pilots and engineers have done advanced training at Boeing, so that they are very familiar with the last nut, bolt, washer, screw, split pin on a Boeing 787. Uday, we have to satisfy relatives. Now that 1 year has passed, we have to finally close the case by satisfying the relatives
Yes.
that best possible investigation has been done. Yes, Uday.
But also, the fact is that the findings of this report also, are very different to what the preliminary AAIB report had claimed. And particularly, I'm addressing the aspect of pilot error that report had spoken about. Of course, that's something that had upset the families of the pilots. It had gone to the Supreme Court as well. But this report, of course, is diametrically opposite to claiming that the pilots were the ones who were fighting to avert a crash, but unfortunately the systems, the computing, did not allow them to do so.
To start with, Uday, I will say yes, it may happen once in a while because all the aircraft are highly complicated machinery, electrical systems, hydraulic systems. Most important nowadays, most of the aircraft are heavily computer loaded. Every operation of every system, subsystem is through a computer. There may be a malfunction. It may happen some sensors are taking a wrong input. So a sensor, if it is not functioning correctly or gives a wrong input to the computer may take a bad decision. Um, Now, whatever Caravan magazine says, I am very sure that Boeing must have uh, studied this phenomena that has FADC computer really taken some miscue from some sensor which had gone rogue. Uday, I must tell that there are these troubleshooters. After an accident, many people are put together. People with very bright brains are put together. They are supposed to imagine, they are supposed to dream that what could have gone wrong. And they take all their inputs from passengers, from engineering crew, from
Yes.
pilots, and they find out even a wild theory that this could have gone wrong. They make a list and then run through it. in Boeing laboratories trying to simulate. So whether in this case a computer overtook the pilot, there is a possibility. Yes, Uday.
Okay. Group Captain Devnath, thank you for joining us with your perspective on this segment.